Peace, world. I don't know what's going on here, actually. I'm just trying something new. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the changes on Spotify for podcasters and this new Riverside studio tool or set of tools that's available. I don't know where this is uploading this to right now. Hmm, interesting. I'm just looking at something that's going on. Look, so let me jump into it. I guess if I had to, and actually I made some changes to my studio to get the other microphone that was all in my face. I tried to clean it up a little bit and have this option right here. I'm just trying to get this to be smaller. Maybe I get a package later on today and I can see if I can get that installed on my setup and it's a little sleeker look. But thanks for checking out another episode of It's Always Personal. Again, I don't know where this video is going to be maintained. After I get done, I'll check out where the audio is. If it's just something that I can upload as an episode. But yeah, it looks like June 1st, I think, is when there's going to be a change on Spotify for podcasters, and after that, you won't be able to use the original tools that migrated over from Anchor. So I'm just trying to get ahead of the curve with it being, I guess this is April Fool's Day for those that celebrate that. I never really paid too much attention to it. Hell, most days, especially if you if you pay attention to stuff on social media, most days feel like April Fool's Day. Sometimes you can't believe some of the conversations that you might get dragged into. Speaking of that, there was a fight over the weekend. There was a couple of boxing matches over the weekend. One of them involved a young man, Curmel Moton, Moton. He took on Anthony Cuba, and I think he got an eighth round knockout. I didn't watch any of the action that was the inaugural Premier Boxing Champions show on Amazon on Prime. It was a pay per view card for $69.95 featuring 154-pound champion Tim Tszyu against Sebastian Fundora, who was a replacement for Keith Thurman, who had an injury and had to withdraw from the bout. And I was just against the event as a pay per view. An additional cost to fans who wanted to view it above your Amazon Prime membership. You had to pay $69 to watch it. Uh, None of the names on this card really warranted or justified the pay per view status, in my opinion. It should have been a card that fans could watch with your normal subscription. They opted not to do that. Cool, no harm. I don't have to buy it. So, no big deal for me. It wasn't attractive as a purchase when Keith Thurman, a former 147-pound unified champion, when he was the opponent for Tszyu, it wasn't attractive. When Fundora stepped in after Thurman's withdrawal, the issue with Fundora is that he was knocked out, I want to say, in his last fight. Maybe in the last two or three. I can't remember if he came back from that fight or not. But that's just the weirdness of boxing. How you can get knocked out in a previous bout. A little nugget there. The guy that knocked him out was the last opponent of Tim Tszyu, who Tim Tszyu decisively beat. if you follow the BS that I'm laying down. So no, when Fundora was in installed as, or put in place uh as the replacement for Keith Thurman, I was definitely out. And in the co-main event for the card was Rolly Ramirez, or Rolando Ramirez, who was a 140-pound champion, who I had zero uh, respect for as a world champion. A guy that cannot box. Things, a lot of things fell in place for him to get to a world championship. Great for him. Uh, he ended up taking on Isaac Cruz, who was a lightweight fighter, 135-pound guy, who came up to 140 pounds. And he beat the brakes off of Rolly Ramirez, as I expected him to do. So now the one development was that Fundora and Underdog actually ended up defeating Tim Tszyu for his first loss in his career. Early in the fight, an inadvertent or an accidental elbow on the top of Tim Tszyu's head opened a severe cut, and that changed the whole course of the fight for the next 10 or 11 rounds. I believe the cut happened in the first round, maybe. Again, I'm just looking at news reports. But blood was streaming down Tim Tszyu's face the entire fight. It ended up being a split decision in the favor of Sebastian Fundora, and that was unexpected. Now, getting to Curmel Moton. Young guy. I don't even think he's 18 years old. I see some clips on Instagram about his fight. Lots of exchanges. It's a brawl. It's not really boxing. That's not a criticism. It just, Moton was aggressive and was attacking aggressively and basically brawling instead of boxing, which is cool. Sometimes you need to do that. The only thing that I tried to point out in my comment that I made on the video on Instagram was that while Curmel Moton was attacking Anthony Cuba, who was hurt, Moton took at least 4 big shots to the face, to the head, if not 6 or 7. And all I commented was him taking these punches on the chin and to the head at this level of his career. That's a concern. Concern does not mean that the young man is trash or he has glaring deficiencies. He's a bum. He's going nowhere. It's nothing like that. It's just sitting here watching what's going on that everybody is seeing, and I see Moton's head snap to the left and the right or backwards at least 4 times, maybe even 6 or 7. And that's a concern. Again, I'm fighter first. And for up and coming fighters, you don't have to subject yourself to punishment in order to entertain fans. Each fighter, your head, your chin can only take so many punches throughout your career. And as you take a lot of shots, you lose some of yourself. You lose some of your faculties. So you have to protect that. And my point, my deeper point was, if you're taking these shots against a lesser talented guy, not a world-class fighter or a contender, a former world title challenger, or an opponent, you're both top 10 contenders and you have an elimination bout, and that guy is probably a world-class fighter, a world-class level, world-class operator, you can have the assumption that you're going to take some shots to beat him or her. So that was my thing. Was like, while you're fighting these mid-level guys and these developmental fights, these journeymen, some call them tomato cans, on your way up the ladder, you should be polishing up your game there, and you make your mistakes at those stages, but you minimize them too. And the fact that, like, you catch one big shot, I'm looking for an adjustment. I'm looking for you to understand what's happening and not let it happen again. To let it happen 4, 5, 6, 7 more times with your hands down, with your chin up in the air or out in leading with your chin. This now I get it. The young man is probably caught up in the moment. The crowd might be going crazy or whatever, or he might just be going for the kill, so to speak. And you rush. That's understandable. You're a young guy. You're a young fighter. Again, it's a concern. And it's a thinking man's game. And sometimes a hurt opponent is the most dangerous opponent. He goes into survival mode and just starts defending himself, wildly throwing punches. Well, when you go to attack, you need to understand that this is happening, and you might want to throw in some feints. Fake some punches, do some foot feints, do some punch feints, and get the person to react. And then after he swings, then you go and swing. You don't abandon your defensive guard. You don't drop your hands down from your face. You don't poke your face out. You still need to act like this is a live opponent who can hurt you. Protect yourself at all times. So yeah, I can chalk this up to a guy who got excited, who got lost in the moment and abandoned his technique, abandoned his training, so on and so forth. It's a concern. Some person, a brother, and I can tell by his screen name, he's probably in the culture and heavily influenced by the culture. He might be born around 2000 or after, and he likes Curmel Mudgeon. He probably considers Moton. I said Curmel Mudgeon. Curmel Moton. He probably considers him a peer. It's his guy. That's his favorite fighter or an emerging fighter for him. And because I said something, I said concern was construed or misconstrued as a criticism. Nah, brother, it's a critique. And because I am fighter first, it's encouragement. It's encouragement to him as well as his team, which I'm assuming they already saw it. They already know. If they're worth their salt, if they didn't make note of it during the fight, they go back and watch the fight afterwards, and they're like, "Oh man, we gotta take care of our young charge. We got to take care of our guy. We've got to tighten that up," and they'll make the necessary adjustments and focus on the right things ahead of the next fight. No harm, That's what this stage of the career is for. But the person that tries to check me says that it ain't no concern. You just get back to the gym and work on it. And it's like, who are you to tell me what's acceptable for me to comment on this open forum here, social media? I'm supposed to ignore what I saw. That so like, you don't realize your level of sensitivity, that you're reacting to something that I said, sharing my thoughts like everybody else on this thread. Who are you to sit here and tell somebody, watch what you say, watch how you say what you say, don't disrespect my athlete, don't hate, whatever immature BS and just foolishness. And that's what you kind of encounter online, is that because we're in this debate culture, sports debate culture, and everybody is the tendency, or it's a likelihood that everybody is saying something to make a point, or to score a point, or to talk down the others. People see comments and think that that's what somebody's doing. He's trying to hate. He's trying to slander. He's firing shots. It's a slight. He's casting aspersions. He's being negative towards my guy, and I got to defend my guy. But then you come right back and reword what I said. You wouldn't go back and work on it in the gym if it wasn't a concern. You wouldn't make specific notes of what was happening, that I said was happening, and go spend time addressing it in the gym if it wasn't a concern. There's difference in a critique and a criticism, or critiquing and criticizing. You'll know when I'm criticizing. I just criticized the pay-per-view aspect of Saturday's cards. And I just criticized the matchmaking between Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora. I just criticized the fact that the co-main was Rolly Ramirez and Isak Cruz. Phenomenal performance by Isak Cruz, by the way. 8th round stoppage of Rolly Ramirez. But yeah, you'll know. Well, I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious when I'm criticizing. But just to say, repeatedly taking the same types of shots to the face for a young fighter. Hey, young man, defense is an important part of this game. And I'm going to encourage you to be mindful of that as you take your steps up the ladder. Because again, there's only so many shots that you can take. And you don't get any extra money, extra credit. You don't get any of these, you don't get any pieces of yourself back. These your brain doesn't regenerate new brain cells, and you don't get to reset back to zero. Now that you're on this path as a professional fighter, there's mostly subtracting from you as you are. The current version of yourself is the best that you're ever gonna be. So again, there's a time and a place when you do need to bang. There's a time and a place when you do need to put it all on the line. And it may be you may get matched up against some guys where you have to abandon safety first, and you have to abandon defending yourself because you're down in the fight and you need this victory. And the only way you can do it is being unlike your normal self, breaking from your normal tendencies, taking risks. And you had to be able to calculate all of this when you need to do these things. Here the other night against Anthony Cuba, as hurt as you have this guy, and the fact that you are superior to this guy, you're doing yourself a disservice by sitting here allowing him to catch you flush when you're the alert fighter. He's the hurt fighter. And you taking these bombs on your chin, that's unacceptable. You have to protect yourself. So, I stand by what I said. Again, I don't really go on social media with the energy of trampling and trashing fighters, tearing down fighters. That's not my style. Again, I know it's probably the majority of the guys online are out there for that. Now, I'll get into this and I'll get off of here with this test episode using this Riverside studio. But it's wild in boxing that we're not allowed to, we're seemingly not allowed to analyze and critique fighters because the following the alliances to the fan allegiance to some of these fighters is so uh, over the top. So it's extreme. So you're not allowed to say anything, you know. But I was saying like for Coco Golf and tennis, if on my @bite down boxing on Instagram, if if she had a match and she won it, but the success of her first serves, you know, you get two serves to get the ball over the net and initiate the volley. You hit it to the opponent. The opponent hits it back. You set up your shots and you try to get a winner or a scoring shot. You only get two of those. You get if you double fault, then the other person gets a point and it goes to the next point. And I said so it's very important, you know, that you have a high first serve percentage. When you go to your second serve, because of the fact that you can't have a second fault, you can't double fault, you're going to serve the ball slower, usually. Uh, and when you serve the ball, part of the purpose in serving it is to get get to an advantage. The way that they have to return, if you don't get an ace, if you get it past them, you get an ace. That's a point for you. That's 15 points for you, or 10 for the first point. But you want to strategically get your opponent out of position with your first serve, serving it as hard as you can, wherever you want to place it. But if you don't successfully get it across the net and initiate initiate the volley on that second serve, again, you might only hit it 50% instead of 100% in the force that you use. And then that's an advantage to the person returning the serve. They can place the ball more easily where they want to place it and get you out of position. So again, if your first serve was not was terrible, that wouldn't be a good outing for you. You know, uh, you would need to work on that. That would be you would want to spend some extra time on your serve, working on your nerves during the first serve, working on your technique, the height of how high you toss the ball up in the air, and that's how you improve. That's how you work on your craft. You improve your game. Uh, Quarterback throwing interceptions in the red zone. You've driven all the way down the field. You're in the 10-yard line on the 5-yard line. The worst outcome of that drive should be a 3-point field goal attempt. If you're forcing the ball in repeatedly and turning and throwing interceptions in the red zone, that's a major concern that becomes a problem. And your head coach is going to tell you, hey, we cannot afford to turn the ball over. We cannot afford the quarterback to turn the ball over in these scoring opportunities. We have to get that field goal, or we have to get in an end zone. And if you continue to throw interceptions and turn the ball over with bad decision making, I'm gonna have to pull you. You can't afford it. Wide receiver drops a lot of passes, and they watch the tape and they can see the receiver's eyes move away from catching the football, and he's looking upfield, or he's looking at the oncoming safety, or he's doing some adjustment to avoid contact, or he's trying to get into his move to get past the defender before he totally secures the ball. That's a problem. That's a concern. We have to go to you and work on your securing the ball. The first thing that you have to do, the first step is to complete the reception. Don't matter how fast you are and how elusive you are if you didn't catch the ball first. Watching college basketball, you take bad shots repeatedly, fading away, trying to shoot with guys' hands in your face instead of getting some space, or you shooting too deep. Just poor decision making with your shots. That's a concern. I got to go over to you. Hey, learn how to create some space. Jab steps, ball fake, work on your step back, catch and shoot. Come off a screen or multiple screens and get some space and then catch it and shoot it. And get your feet together. Square your feet up and all of that. It's different things. A running back, if he's fumbling the ball too much, that's a concern. It becomes an immediate problem. And we got to get you off the field. If you're not securing the ball right, baseball hitters, if you don't handle inside pitches, if you swing and strike out 2 or 3 times in a game, and you swing at pitches that bounce in front of the plate, they don't even make it to home plate, and you swing. Obvious concern. That's a problem, and we got to talk about it and see what's going on with how you're seeing the ball and whatnot, and your anticipation. There's a number of different things throughout sports where the training staff, the coaches, the skills coaches, you have to look at the performance of the athlete and make note of the things that are costing the athlete or the team. Those are concerns. We address them. That's all I was saying with Curmel Moton, super talented kid, potentially a bright future, promise, a lot of promise. But you can't take big shots on the chin against an opponent at this level. Especially, this is very correctable. Again, slow down. Be patient. Keep your hands up. Don't square up. If you stay like this, that's less. You see how it's less surface? Then you tuck this chin behind that shoulder. That's a harder shot. But if you square up like this, and then you bring your guard from here down here and drop your hands, and you loading up for your shots, those straight punches. See, you go here versus coming over there. There's a lot of little things. It's correctable. But that doesn't mean that I didn't see your head snapping around. You might fight a guy who he might have more losses than wins, but he might have a hell of a punch. He might be a pretty good puncher. And he might get hurt and go into survival mode and throw some wild shots and might catch you and knock you out or knock you down or hurt you very badly and change turn the tables on you in this thing. So, but it just amazes me that today's interactions online are always adversarial from the jump. And you don't see the fruit in somebody's reasoning or rationale. And again, for me, I gotta ignore you, young brother. Like, I don't even know why you're talking to me. You want to fight. I want this young fighter to get better. And we get in situations where we see some young fighters who lose their first fight. Because once there's a book on you, I mean, if I'm seeing it, other other trainers see it, other fighters see it. Hey, this brother don't keep his hands up. His range, man, how he manages the space in between us when he gets in and out of range with his guard down. His lack of anticipation for punches that are his lack of understanding of movement and reactions, actions and reactions. Like some guys know when you go in to throw 2 or 3 punches, you get trained. That's why you see when guys are hitting the mitts and they throw that they go 1-1, 2, duck under, roll under. You know a punch is coming. You just can't sit here and hit a guy with 5, 6 straight punches and nothing comes back. Your training staff, your coach is telling you, man, after that double jab and that right, you got to duck. And then come back with an uppercut or left hook because he just threw his right. You got to like understand the movements of boxing, the science of it, and act accordingly. I don't know if some of these fans necessarily understand. Like that other guy, the opponent that you don't care about, he is there to win. He is there trying to change his fortunes. Now, and Anthony Cuba, from my understanding, I'm not that familiar with that fighter, Anthony Cuba, but he was meant to test young Curmel, and by landing those shots, you know, he revealed some flaws, some shortcomings, some areas of his game that need to be addressed, and I hope they do that. So look, I just got a very important call, and I got to get off of here to see what that was about. Again, this is a test video, episode of It's Always Personal, using this Riverside studio with video and audio. So let me see what, after I spend the time doing this, where does it go? Hey, take care. It's always personal. My name is Wood. Peace.